Hey everybody, how's it going? Matthew Kadish here, author, evil genius, and die-in-the-wool marketer. And after a couple posts of mine on the 20 books group, I got a couple questions that I wanted to make a quick video, kind of cover. Well, maybe the video is not so quick, I don't know. I'll know when it's all finished and edited. But one of the big issues that all authors have to deal with is the idea of how do I get people to read my book? Or, an extension of that. How do I get people to pay me money to read my book? Whether you're a new author or you're an established author, you spend a lot of time, energy, and effort writing the best story you can and putting it out there, and you want people to be able to enjoy it. And more than that, you want to be able to reap a little bit of reward from the effort that you put into making, this great content. So a big question a lot of people have is, how do I do that? How do I get my book out in front of people? How do I get them to, want to buy it and read it and become fans of mine and all that good stuff? So in a couple of my other posts to the group, I talked about a couple marketing strategies, a couple of, quick tips and stuff like that. But I kept getting, the same question over and over again from people, which is like, how do I do this? And in my experience and in my opinion, the best way to do this is to purchase advertising. It's quick, it's easy, it's controllable, it's repeatable, it's scalable. So there's a lot of benefits to simply buying advertising as opposed to, working your butt off trying to do the free stuff or, going, cheaper routes. Like newsletter announcement lists, newsletter swaps, things like that. I'm not saying those things don't work. I'm just saying that, they require a lot of energy and effort to pull off. So being the lazy sod that I am, I like to just throw money at something and have it be taken care of. And the best way to do that, at least in my experience, is with Facebook advertising. Now, not everyone is as gung-ho about Facebook advertising as I may be, simply because, Facebook advertising can be scary. A lot of the things I hear are that, authors, especially new authors who, maybe aren't very experienced in marketing, they look at Facebook advertising and they get scared because it looks complicated and, it's just something that confuses them and they don't know where to start learning how to do it. And so they just avoid it altogether. Then you have the people who've given it the good old college try, and they end up spending money and they don't get any results, and then they're bitter because of it. And they say, oh, Facebook advertising didn't work for me. It's a big scam. There's no way to get people to buy my work. Life is terrible. So those are basically the two schools that I see most objecting to, buying advertising on Facebook. So what I wanted to do in this video is just kind of make a beginner's guide to the platform, kind of demystify it for you guys so that it's not so complicated and scary, and also show you some, tried, tested, and proven tips to better help increase your results with Facebook advertising, so that if you spend some money, trying it out, chances are you will see a result come back to you that will either help you to break even or make a profit, hopefully. Or if you do lose money, have it be like a very small amount. Like I said, I'm not going to promise that this thing is going to revolutionize how you guys run your author marketing business. But I just figured that there were enough people who contacted me out of the group that were confused or needed help in terms of Facebook advertising that I would make a little instructional video, kind of walk you guys through the process and the stuff that I personally do in order to advertise my own books and show you guys, just how exactly I do it. So we're just going to hop on over to my computer and I'm going to break down everything for you. And hopefully you'll get something out of this little video. Okay guys, so here we are, and we're going to be doing this in two phases. The first is going to be the kind of presentation phase where we're going to go through, just a couple odds and ends about the whole process of, using Facebook advertising. And then we're going to go through an actual demonstration where I take you, through the process of creating an ad campaign and creating an ad and basically demystifying the process. So if you can see me do it, it'll be less intimidating when you do it. All right, so basically I'm calling this the Beginning Facebook Advertising for Book Authors course. And it's not technically a course, it's just a quick video. But, for someone who doesn't know anything about Facebook advertising, who's a complete newbie, basically we're trying to use this as a way to kind of hold your hand through it. And if you're a hardened veteran, you probably won't learn anything new here, but who knows, you might like listening to my voice and looking at my godlike features. So let's get going. So why should you advertise your books? There's a lot of reasons why you should advertise. The first is to gain exposure and build your author brand. The more people who know about you and the more people who are consciously aware of you and your books, the more famous you become, internet famous, indie famous. And that's always a good thing, because the more times people are exposed to something, the more likely they are to eventually buy it. It's a little old marketing maxim that you can basically take to the bank. So, the whole concept of branding, getting your products out there in front of people, makes them more likely to buy, because the more familiar they become with you and your work, the more comfortable they are in shelling out their hard-earned money. The next reason is to attract more readers, obviously. We spend all this time writing books, working hard at it. We want people to read them and enjoy them. Another big thing is to make more money. The more you advertise, if you're doing it correctly, the more books you're going to sell, and the more money you're going to make. And eventually, hopefully, you'll be able to make a sustainable income that will allow you to write full-time and basically live that author lifestyle that we're all chasing after. Finally, the purpose of advertising your books is to build a mailing list. Now, one of the great things about advertising is that you have complete control over where you're sending the traffic that you're advertising to. So if you want to send it directly to your Amazon sales page in order to try and get people to buy your book that way, that's within your power. But if you want to send them to your mailing list sign up and try to capture their information so you can continue to market to them in perpetuity, that is also an option. So advertising through Facebook is a good way to not only make sales for your book, but it's also a good way to build up your email list and create your author brand. Next up, let's talk about a few of the obstacles to advertising. These are the 3 biggest complaints or myths that I hear people, talking about. The first is that it's too confusing. Now, some of these ad platforms on the internet are extremely confusing. They've got all these different menus and all these different features, and when you're looking at it, it can be a little bit overwhelming. But just like with anything in life, if you take the time to try to understand it, eventually that confusion goes away and it becomes like second nature. So the point I'm trying to make here is that if you're confused about it now, just put in a little bit of time and energy to try to understand it, and eventually the whole thing is going to become demystified, and you'll be looking at the interfaces and the ad platforms like you're an expert at it. The second objection is that it's too expensive. And, it can be, especially if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of money to spend on advertising. But keep in mind that as an advertiser, you have complete control over how much you are willing to spend. So to say it's too expensive is really just saying, oh, I don't feel like spending the money. If you want to spend $5 advertising your book, you can spend $5. Is that expensive? That's how much, in fact, that's cheaper than most coffees at Starbucks. If you want to spend $1,000, it's perfectly within your ability to do so. It all depends on how much you're willing to invest in trying to sell your books, and how much you're willing to invest in your author business, and how much you're willing to invest in yourself. A lot of the too expensive comments I usually hear are from people who don't know how to properly set up their campaigns to try to reduce their ad spend in terms of cost per click. But in terms of overall budget, that's completely within your control. So it can be as cheap or as expensive as you want it to be. The final obstacle that I hear about constantly is that advertising doesn't work. And this usually comes from people who are doing it wrong, or who have a product that they either don't know how to sell, or that genuinely nobody is interested in buying. So if you have a book on how to grow toenail fungus, there might not be a market for that, so no amount of advertising is going to help you out there. But if you have a really well written for market fiction book, then chances are it's going to work as long as you advertise it properly. So what we're going to be focusing on is creating ads that target your market effectively, that don't cost too much to run, and that get you maximum results for the time that you put into them. All right, so a big thing about doing Facebook ads right is planning ahead. You don't just want to jump in and kind of make it up as you go. You want to sit down beforehand and figure some things out, and then go in and set everything up. So the first thing that you're going to want to plan is what your ad is going to be. And this is basically what you're presenting to your audience. This is going to be the first thing that they see that puts you in their conscious awareness. And you're going to want to try to make it as appealing to them as possible. So think of it as the first stage of the sales process. Ultimately, you want your audience to be buying your book. That's your end goal. But in order to get them to buy your book, you have to first get them to your sales page. And in order to get them to your sales page, you have to get them to click on your ad. So when you're writing your ad, you're not writing your ad to sell your book. You're writing your ad to get people to click on that ad. It's kind of a key difference there, because a lot of people, when they make their Facebook ad, they're trying to sell their book. But it's not about the book at that point. It's about getting the click. So when you're writing your Facebook ad, you want to write it to get a click as opposed to getting a sale. The sales page that you send people to, that's what's going to be what sells them. So, just keep that in mind. But before you jump in and do anything, take some time to plan out your ad. We're going to go through that in a second. So the second part is going to be who you're serving that ad to, who is your audience. And this is oftentimes where authors can really screw up when it comes to Facebook advertising. So when you're writing your ad, that's one thing. A lot of people may not have a hard time doing that. But when it comes to figuring out who to show that ad to, that's where people might get confused or might do things wrong. So basically you want to think about, who am I marketing to? Who am I trying to get to my sales page in order to buy my books? And we're going to go through that in great detail later on in this video, because I think that if you know how to write your ad and you know who you're going to be serving your ad to, between those two things, you're going to have a really good and effective marketing campaign. All right, so let's talk about writing the ad for a minute here. So there's basically 5, different aspects to crafting an ad for Facebook. The first is going to be the image that is going to be present in your ad. Now, if you think about, selling books, the book cover is the most important aspect of, your book marketing that you can possibly have, because the covers are what essentially help sell the books. There's that old saying, never judge a book by its cover, but heck, we all do that, especially when it comes to books. So if you've got a good cover, chances are, people will buy your book. If you have a bad cover, chances are it'll turn people off from buying your books. So the same is true for your ads. The image of a Facebook ad is the most important aspect of it. So you want to spend a lot of time, effort, and energy picking the best image you can possibly pick for your ad. And that doesn't always mean just taking the cover from your book and putting it in your Facebook ad. Oftentimes, that's actually one of the worst things you can do. It all depends on your audience and what type of book you're exactly marketing. But I like to test out a bunch of different images for my Facebook ad and then see which one my audience responds to best. Typically, ads with 0 words in them actually tend to work better than ads that have a lot of words in them. So you want to just choose a pure image for your ad, and you want to do something that will represent your genre. So basically, if, for instance, you're writing romance, you want an image that will be romantic. If you're writing mystery thrillers, you want something kind of mysterious or action-packed. If you're writing horror, you want something kind of creepy or spooky. If you're writing science fiction or fantasy, you want something that kind of evokes, spaceships, outer space, fantasy worlds, swords and sorcery, that type of thing. So always look for something that's eye-catching, that doesn't have text in it, and is representative of your genre when picking an image. The next thing you're going to want to focus on is ad text. And basically this is this is the text that is in the post area of your Facebook ad. Now, most Facebook ads are basically just like a regular Facebook post that you're linking to an article, off the site. So it'll have your post text, and then underneath that it'll have an image, and then like a little description of, where things are going. So for the ad text, you want to think of it as in what's going to get people to click on my ad. What can I say to sell people on the idea of going to check out my book? And this is the second most important part of your Facebook ad. And we'll kind of go over a few tips later on that gives you an idea of how to write good post text for your ad. The third most important aspect of your ad is a headline. Now, the headline is going to go right underneath the image in your Facebook ad, and it's going to be in big letters, and it's probably going to be the second thing that people see when looking at the ad before they go up and read the ad text. So you want to have a good headline that's going to catch someone's attention. And what I've found that typically works best for a headline is a question of some type. So saying do you want to read the next great spy thriller, ? That's an example of a headline that I might want to test out in one of my ads. You don't want something that's going to be boring or something that kind of extols a feature. For instance, read for free on Kindle Unlimited is typically not a good headline, at least not in the tests that I've run. You want something that's going to make people stop and want to actually read your ad as your headline. So, for instance, if you write romance, you could say something like, "Is this the next 50 Shades of Grey?" ? And knowing that 50 Shades of Grey is a very popular book in the genre, or it doesn't have to be 50 Shades of Grey, it could be any popular book, but posing it as a question is saying could this be the next great blah blah blah, that would get people to stop and look at your ad. The next part is the article description, and this is what goes under the headline, and this is where you want to put in the features and benefits that people are going to be exposed to when they go check out your book. So that's where you can say, get it now for 99 cents, read for free on Kindle Unlimited, get this 5-book bundle for one low price. All that stuff is great for the article description area. Finally, the destination URL, that's where you're going to be ultimately sending people to. So this is where you have to figure out, okay, am I going to send people to my Amazon product page directly? Am I going to send them to an opt-in form? Where's the destination going to be ultimately for the people who click on my ad? So these are the 5 things that you need to figure out before you sit down and go into the Facebook advertising platform to set up a campaign. And once you've got all 5 of these aspects down, you've got an ad ready and waiting to go. The next thing we're going to be doing is identifying your ideal audience. And you'll probably figure this out a little bit more when we actually go through it in a little bit. But there are basically 4 different aspects to identifying an audience. Basically, you want to figure out what country you're targeting. So for instance, if you're targeting people in the United States, they may respond to stuff differently than people in the United Kingdom. You're also going to be sending them to 2 different storefronts. So for instance, you don't want to be sending UK traffic to the US Amazon store. You want to send it to the UK Amazon store. so on and so forth. The next thing is language. A lot of people don't know this, but when you're setting up your campaign, you want to make sure that you specify what language the people that you're targeting are going to be speaking. For instance, if you leave the language field blank and you target the United States, people who speak Spanish, people who speak other languages that may not speak English will be exposed to your ad. So your ad will be served to people who can't read it, essentially. So if you specify English, that'll make sure that your ad is served only to English speakers and readers. And so that's like an important thing to do. And if you're, selling a book that is not written in English, you want to make sure that you specify the language that the book is written in order to target the people who read that language. The next part is placements. And this is where your ad shows up on the Facebook platform. A lot of people actually do this wrong, and it's very easy to do wrong, and I'll show you how when we actually walk through the step-by-step portion of the video. But it's important that you only put your ad in places where people are, number one, going to see it, and number two, are the most likely to click on it, but more than that, are the most likely to buy, because there are a lot of places that you can put your ad where it'll get a lot of clicks, but that traffic isn't going to convert very well. So that's basically like throwing money away, and you don't want to do that. So I'll show you some tricks on what to look out for in a few minutes. Finally, and this is where the rubber really hits the road when it comes to Facebook advertising, you want to figure out what interests to target in order to find the people who are going to most likely buy your books. So if you've never done Facebook advertising before and you're a little bit intimidated by it, one of the great things about it is that you can actually tell Facebook who to serve your ads to based off of things that they have expressed interest in. So for instance, if you are a romance writer and you have a lot of romance books to sell, you can tell Facebook to only target people who have expressed interest in other romances, other romance authors, other romance books, romance movies, romantic comedies, romance TV shows, all types of stuff that have to do with that genre. You can say, only serve my ad to people who have specifically expressed an interest in those types of things. And that's really going to help up the quality of your Facebook advertising, because the only people who are seeing your ads are going to be the people most likely to be interested in what you have to offer. And that's actually a huge key in making Facebook work for you. Okay, so we have the ad and we have the audience aspect of Facebook advertising. Finally, let's talk a little bit about the expense portion of advertising. Before you go into setting up a campaign, you're going to want to sit down and think about your marketing budget. And here are just a couple tips that you can use to figure out the best way to spend your money. The first tip that I would give people who are just starting out with Facebook advertising is to never spend more than you can afford to lose. If you've ever gone to a casino or gone gambling or whatever, you know that the best way to do it is to have a bankroll. And once that bankroll is spent or gone, you walk away, you quit. But the idea is that you're not spending next month's rent money. You're not spending, the grocery money that you plan to use to, live off of in order to, have fun gambling. Advertising isn't quite gambling, but if you don't know what you're doing or you're just starting out, there's a good chance that, whatever money you have to advertise with, you may not make back in a return on your investment. So never spend more than you can afford to lose. So for instance, if you have a day job, you're doing the author thing part-time, let's say that you can't afford to spend $1,000 in 1 month on advertising. So don't do that. If you can afford to spend $100 a month, and that's, that might make things a little bit tight, but it's not going to, keep you from paying your bills or, putting food on the table or stuff like that, then that's okay. All right. But that's something that you have to figure out before you start, buying ads. So be sure to do that. The next tip I have is to start small, figure out what works, and then slowly work your way up, in terms of spending more and buying more advertising. So, don't try and be a bestseller right out the gate if you can't afford to spend a whole lot of money. Just start off small. If all you can afford is $5 a day, spend $5 a day. Get that $5 a day working for you, and then once it's working for you, once you're breaking even or making a small profit, up the ad spend a little bit, see how that goes, and gradually increase it until you're doing really, really well. But don't be afraid to start small. You don't have to hit a home run right off the bat. You can just dip your toe in the waters, get your feet wet, and move on from there. The next thing is that if you're worried about how much money you're going to be spending, you can set a lifetime budget for your campaign. So you can say, well, I've only got $100 I can afford to spend this month on marketing. So you can go into Facebook and say, this campaign needs a lifetime budget of $100. And Facebook will say, okay, we will run this campaign until $100 has been spent, and we will not go a penny above that. So basically, if you don't have a lot of money to spend, you can just tell Facebook, this is how much I have to work with, and Facebook will work with it. Okay, so this kind of dispels that advertising is expensive myth. You are in total control of how much you're going to spend advertising on Facebook. So if you tell Facebook, the dollar amount that you're comfortable with, they will stick to that. You don't have to worry about spending more than that. Okay. Finally, don't be afraid to pause or turn off campaigns that aren't working. So if you've set stuff up and you're spending money and you're not seeing a good return on this after like a day or two or something like that, you're not locked into it. You have complete control over when you can shut things down. So if you're worried that you're spending, you're throwing good money after bad, then you can pause your campaign, you can cancel it, you can dial it back, you can dial it down. You have complete control over how to do that, and it's very easy to do. So, don't be afraid to cut losers when it's obvious that they're losers. And then once you do that, you can kind of step back and you can kind of reevaluate what went wrong and where, and try something new down the road. Okay. So those are my tips on the expense part of Facebook advertising. And now, probably the part where you guys are, I assume, the most interested in. Let's set up a Facebook campaign together. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hop on over into my Facebook ads account, and I'm going to take you through step by step how to set up a Facebook ad. All right, everybody, so here we are in my Facebook account here, and I'm just going to walk you through a case study of how to set up a Facebook ad quick and easy. So if you've never done it before, this little tutorial is going to be for you. So as you can see, I'm just in my Facebook news feed here, and if I go up to this little drop down arrow, it's going to give me some options here, and I just go down to create ads. So if I click on that, it's going to take me to the Facebook Ads Manager, and it's going to show me this area here where it's asking me to create an objective for my campaign. So, you're going to see a bunch of options here, but the only thing you really need to focus on for our purposes is traffic. Because, if you're sending traffic to your Facebook or your Amazon Books product page, all you're looking for are, traffic, basically. If you were doing, email list building, you might want to try lead generation, but 99% of the time, authors are going to be using the traffic campaigns as the things that they're going to be focusing on for their objective. So we're just going to go ahead and click on traffic here, and that's going to take us down here. It's going to give us the option of doing a split test, and I'm probably going to need to do a whole nother video just on that, because split testing is really important, especially in getting your cost per click down. But for the purposes of just starting out with Facebook advertising, we're going to skip over that for now. So with the campaign name here, this is where you create a name for your Facebook advertising campaign. And I usually like to just do some shorthand on here to kind of keep things straight. So for instance, we'll do EJ1, which stands for Earthman Jack 1, which is the first book in my Earthman Jack series. And then we'll do direct traffic, which tells me that it's going directly to my Amazon sales page. And then we'll do US, which is the country. And then we'll do men. And we'll do 21 and over. And yeah, that'll pretty much be it for that. So this is just my naming convention. You can actually name your campaign whatever you want. I just help, I do so many different variations that, listing these things out really kind of helps keeps things in perspective when I'm, managing my campaigns. So you're going to keep this on link clicks. If you see here, you can get landing page views, but since we're sending it to a website that we don't control, like Amazon.com, we just want to focus on link clicks. And once we have all that taken care of, we're just going to click continue. Now this takes us to the ad set, and this is where we're going to be setting up who our audience for our ad is going to be. So up here you'll see ad set name, so we'll just do something like science fiction fans, men 21 and over, interest-based. Again, this is just my naming convention. You can name this whatever you want. I just like to kind of make sure that all the things that I need to know about this audience are in the actual name, so at a glance I can easily tell what's going on with it. So right here, you get to choose app, website, app, or messenger. You're going to keep it on website because we're sending it to a web page on Amazon. You can just ignore the offer area for now. Okay, so basically down here at the audience, if you're a little bit more advanced, you can choose to use a saved audience, but we're going to create a new one. And we're just going to ignore custom audiences for now. But in the locations area, basically we're going to be setting the location that our ad is going to target. So if you look here, Facebook gives you the option of everyone in this location, people who live in this location, people recently in this location, and people traveling in this location. Now everyone in this location includes the people who live there, the people who are traveling through it, and the people who were recently in it. So basically it's everybody. Now that might sound like what you want to go with, but it really isn't. What you want is the people who live in this location. And I've just found that by selecting that, you get a little bit more tangible results, because if, like let's say someone's flying in to the United States on their way somewhere else, like they come in from the UK and they're flying to Hawaii or something like that. I don't know. If your ad shows up to them, they may not be, interested, and you've basically wasted an impression on them. Another thing is non-English speakers. If somebody's traveling through the country and they don't speak English, your ad will show up to them while they're in here. So basically, if you just choose people who live in this location, you're going to get a little bit better result. Now, I've also found that if you're targeting United States traffic, it also helps to target Canada, and help if I could spell. Also Australia, and New Zealand. Okay, now you may be saying, but Matt, Canada and Australia have their own Amazon websites. Why would you target them in addition to the United States? Well, interestingly enough, I have found that the countries of Canada, Australia, and New Zealand tend to shop on the United States Amazon website as opposed to their country-specific ones. Now, an interesting thing is like, let's say somebody from one of these other countries clicks on an Amazon link and it automatically directs them to the country's specific Amazon store. it does that automatically. So you either get the Amazon.com America sale, or they're automatically redirected to their appropriate country website, and basically that's as easy as can be for you. So by targeting all these English-speaking countries and sending them to one destination URL, you are basically expanding your audience into a broad English-speaking demographic that you can easily make more sales to. So that's just a little trick that I've developed in my time advertising on Facebook. If you just want to target the United States, that's perfectly fine as well. Another thing that I found is people who are 21 and over tend to buy more stuff online than people who are between 18 and 20. I think that's mostly because most people by 21 have credit cards, and before that 18 to 20-year-olds will click on a lot of stuff, but they won't be buying. So it's best just to kind of like eliminate those guys right off the bat and go with 21 and over. Another thing you want to do is you want to separate the men and women demographics. And this is important in the sense that men and women tend to respond to different things in ads. So I always break up my ad campaigns for ads for men and ads for women, because you just don't know, how they're going to react to certain things. Men might react well to one picture, and women might react well to a different one. So I always like to split those up. And finally, we have our languages, and as you can see, English has 3 different options here, and I usually just choose all 3 of them just to make sure. Okay. Finally, we have direct targeting, but we're going to come back to that in just a second. Okay, so before we get into direct targeting, we're going to go down here to placements. And by default, automatic placements will usually be selected, but we don't want that. We're going to want to go to edit placements, okay? And when you choose edit placements, let me just see if I can see this. Okay, so if you go to edit placements, you're going to see that Facebook automatically checks every single possibility for placing your ad automatically. And you don't want this. This will get you a lot of clicks, but it's very untargeted. So what you want to do is you want to unselect Messenger, you want to unselect the audience network, you want to unselect Instagram, you want to get rid of right column, you want to get rid of instant articles. The only place you want your ad to appear is in the feed section, okay? This will make your ad appear in the Facebook news feed. And that is what I've found to be historically the best converting placement for any type of Facebook advertising. Okay, so now that we've got that taken care of, if we go up to detailed targeting, if this is available to you, I recommend checking this. It's basically expand interest where it may increase link clicks at a lower cost per link click. I don't have any scientific evidence that this helps out, but I like to click it anyway, so it's up to you whether or not you want to click that. But here in the detailed targeting, this is where you can really drill down and determine what or who you want to show your ad to. So the first thing that we usually want to show our ad to are people who own ebook readers, or people who have expressed that they read books digitally. So we'll start off by typing in Kindle, and we'll have Amazon Kindle here. And then once we have that initial thing, we can start doing suggestions, and Facebook will tell us the people who own Kindle Fires, Kindle Fire HD, Amazon Books, Kindle, reading books, reading, ebook lovers, basically anything that has to do with books and ebooks we want to be adding into our targeting. Okay, so if we look up here, we've got people who own Kindle Fires, we've got Kindle e-readers, and then we've got additional interests that cover Amazon e-readers, Barnes & Noble books, bookstores, Google Books, iBooks, all the Kindles, Kobos, Nooks, all that good stuff. And in addition to that, also reading books, ebooks, fiction books, literature, and consumer electronics ebooks readers. Now, what this does is it tells Facebook specifically, I want people who have expressed an interest in reading, particularly ebooks, because that's what you're selling. So by targeting these interests, you're going to have a much higher likelihood of your ad being served to someone who actually buys ebooks. And that's one of the first keys to making a Facebook ad campaign that works out really well. Now, after you've put all this stuff in, what you want to do is you want to further add in interests that have to do with your genre. So you're going to want to start adding interests that have to do with genre interests. So if you're doing science fiction, things like Star Trek, Star Wars, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Robert A. Heinlein, Orson Scott Card, basically authors that are big names in the science fiction genre. If you're doing romance, you want to target like love stories, you want to target Harley Quinn, you want to target big names like E.L. James, and so on and so forth. And you want to get as many of those into your detailed targeting as you possibly can. And so what that's going to do is it's going to tell Facebook, in addition to showing my ad only to people who have an interest in reading and an interest in ebooks and buying ebooks, they also have an interest in the genre of book that I'm trying to sell them. So that's going to increase your targeting exponentially. So by getting really detailed in your targeting, you're basically going to improve your ability to get sales for your Amazon ebooks. Now, if you're going to be, doing a lot of different campaigns, what you can do is you can save this audience, and that way you don't have to go through and put in the detailed targeting time and time again. So that's a little time saver type thing. Now, if we go down here to the budget and schedule, you can see that you have a couple of options down here. Now, for the lifetime budget, this is where you can basically control your costs. Now, you can choose to have a daily budget instead. So if you want your ads to run in perpetuity, you can just tell Facebook, I want to spend $5 a day, $10 a day, whatever. But if you don't have a big budget with which to work with, you can set a lifetime budget, and you can say, okay, I'm willing to spend $100 over the lifetime of this campaign to see, how many clicks I can get. And then Facebook will ask you for a start and end date with which to stretch over that $100. The shorter the time frame, the quicker Facebook's going to spend it. So if you want to have your campaign run through the course of, an entire month, what you would want to do is you'd want to set a start date. So let's just say we'll set a start date of February 1st. For some reason, it's not letting me do that. So let's just say February 17th, and then we'll go to February 17th. So January 17th to February 17th. Okay. And it's saying that my start date has passed, so we're going to set this at, we'll do 9 o'clock. Okay. Typically, you'd want to set a start date for at least 24 hours into the future, because sometimes it takes a while for Facebook to approve your ads. But it's really no big deal. Basically, you just set a date that you want your campaign to start, you set a date you want it to end, and then Facebook will stretch out your lifetime budget over the course of that. So if you're worried about, spending more than $100 a month, if you set, your schedule for a start and end date of about 30 days, and you specify that you only want to spend $100, it will stretch that $100 over the entire 30-day period. Now down here, you have a few more options for how you're going to spend your money. I would recommend not messing with any of this stuff. If you set a bid cap that's too low, Facebook's not going to run your ads because other people will be outbidding you. So it's best just to let the bid strategy stay at lowest cost and let Facebook figure out what that is for you. Keep it at when you get charged per impression, run ads all the time, and standard delivery. So that's basically how you set up your audiences in a Facebook targeting ad campaign. It's not that difficult, like I walked you through it kind of quick, but if you follow the little pieces of advice I gave you, you're going to be just fine. Just remember that the most important part is the detailed targeting. You always want to target ebook readers, and you also want to target people who are interested in the genre of stuff that your book is in. So if you're a mystery thriller writer, target other mystery thriller books, series, TV shows, authors, what have you. If you're a romance writer, target romance targeted, books, movies, TV shows, authors, things like that. And always make sure that you're only targeting the Facebook newsfeed. When you get more advanced, you can experiment with all the other placements, but for now, the feed's the way to go. And finally, your lifetime budget and the schedule over which you would want to spend that. Once you've got all this stuff taken care of, you just click the continue button towards the bottom. And now it's going to take you to the place where you change your ad, or you set up your ad. So I'm going to select my Facebook page. I'm going to name my ad EJ1 Direct Traffic. And I'm going to keep it on single image. And then I'm going to set up my ad down here. So you can upload an image. I'm just going to quickly choose a stock image here. And as you can see, Facebook is probably going to have a hard time loading it because I'm using recording software, which seems to mess it up. But here you can see that I did my pre-planning, and I have my ad text, my headline, my article description, and my destination URL ready to go. So if I just highlight my destination URL, this is just my book's Amazon page. I'm going to click Control-C to copy that. And if I go to the website URL, I'll just hit Control-V to paste it in there. And boom, that'll be the URL that I am using. Next up, we're going to put in the headline. So my headline is, "Do you love great science fiction?" ? I'm just going to pop that in there. Next is the text, and this is the ad text. So for my ad text, I say, "What do you get if you combine the magic of Harry Potter, the adventure and excitement of Star Wars, and the humor of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? You get Earthman Jack. It's like all your favorite 80s sci-fi movies mushed up into book form. Discover the action, adventure, and cheesy one-liners that have been enchanting lovers of whimsical sci-fi and fantasy as the epic saga of the universe's last Earthman unfolds." So as you can see, I wrote it to kind of be catchy, kind of get people intrigued, and get them to want to click on it. Okay, for the call to action button, what we're going to do is we're going to choose the no button option. I have found that not having a button on your ad actually greatly increases the click-through rate, and I think one of the reasons for that is because people are able to read the entire newsfeed link description when you don't have a button on your ad. So that's another little trick that you can use. Finally, for the article description, I just have read the first book in this epic space opera for only 99 cents. Kindle Unlimited users can read the series for free. So remember, the newsfeed link is where you want to put in all the features and benefits. Try to keep it short because this is the thing that gets truncated in other platforms. You can't see it here, but in the mobile newsfeed, the only thing you see underneath the image is the headline, not the newsfeed link description. This is really only shown to people who are looking at your ad on the desktop. So just keep it nice and short. And then for the display link, I just put in Amazon.com, and that is all there is to it. So as you can see, we just have a picture of a spaceship, so it's genre specific because I write sci-fi. I've got a link directly to my Amazon product page. I've got a headline, I've got the ad text. And with the ad text, it can be short, it can be long. You're going to want to eventually test this out and see what your audience responds to the best. This is one of the ad texts that seems to work really well for me. I plan to do more testing on it in the future, but as you can see, it's not very long, but it's kind of snappy, and it grabs people's attention. You want to get rid of your call to action button. You want to have a newsfeed link description that lists all the features and benefits that you're offering your reader. And then you want an Amazon.com display link. And basically this display link can be different than your destination URL. So if you look up here, the destination URL is like this big, long, ugly link, but the link that is displayed on the actual ad just says Amazon.com because that's what I'm specifying. And then once you're ready to go, you just click confirm, and Facebook will then save your ad, and it'll have someone review it. And as long as you meet their advertising guidelines, within probably 24 hours, your ad will go live, and then you'll be able to start seeing traffic to your Amazon landing page or your email list opt-in page. So that's basically all there is to it. I hope I was able to make this super simple and easy for you guys, demystify some of the confusing aspects of setting up a Facebook ad and all that stuff. I know that there are probably some of you out there that are overwhelmed, even though I tried to simplify everything. That's okay. Watch this video as many times as you need, and feel free to email me or direct message me or whatever if you have questions, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer them if I can. Alright guys, this is Matt. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know your feedback in the comments on this post, and I will catch y'all later.